You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the Options Insider Radio Network, where we go beyond our traditional purview into the world of equity and index and even futures options, go beyond into all things crypto. Going to talk the spot, the futures, the options, the volume, the volatility, the SKEW, the open interest, the unusual activity, all that good stuff, and a whole bunch more. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting network, upon which so many of you have been mainlighting ever since all this madness broke out. We love to see all the new listeners, all the new ear holes joining us week after week. We want to continue that party, so make sure wherever you're listening to this program, A, you upgraded to subscribe to the full network. Otherwise, you're missing out on about a dozen programs, listeners. We do a lot more than just crypto. And then B, if you like what you hear, make sure you keep those reviews coming so newcomers can continue to discover this program. Keep those questions coming, too. We do love to hear from you guys. And speaking of hearing from people, let's see who we're hearing from today as we roll right on into the Crypto Hot Seat.
Forget about cold storage. It's time to turn up the heat on thought leaders from the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time to take their place on the Crypto Hot Seat.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Hot Seat, the portion of the program where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of crypto, derivatives, and indeed beyond, and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. And next up in the old hot seat is a newcomer to the program and indeed to the network. He is Travis Schwab, the CEO of EVENTUS Systems. Travis, welcome to the Crypto Rundown program.
Thank you so much, Mark. Nice to be here.
And Travis, as we are wont to do with all of our first-timers here on the network, why don't you go ahead and give our audience a little bit of an overview of your background in the financial space as well as what it is you guys do at EVENTUS Systems.
That's happy to. I'm an old guy. Been in the business for about 25 years. Got my start on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, working for the exchange itself, and have been in the kind of financial technology capital markets since then. We started this company, EVENTUS Systems, about 5-ish years ago. We provide trade surveillance, market risk, kind of reg tech solutions to capital markets firms. So from exchanges to FCMs to brokers to proprietary trading firms, regulators, buy side, you name it. So anyone looking in the market or in the market for trade surveillance, market risk solutions, we're trying to help them out.
Well, an interesting area of the market. I know you guys have been expanding in the crypto space, and so obviously we're going to get to that in a second. But Travis, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but over the past 6 months, the world and indeed the markets kind of fell apart and seem like they're getting their footing again. Of course, we're dealing with unprecedented volume, unprecedented volatility. So maybe let's start there. Let's dial the clock back about 6 months and walk us through what those last 6 months have been like for you guys over there at EVENTUS. What's it been like for a market surveillance firm in the midst of unprecedented volume, unprecedented volatility, and just general madness afoot everywhere, Travis?
Yeah, we I guess love madness, crave madness. No, it's been a really interesting time for us. Just starting with, we closed the funding round on, I think, February 10th. So right before really the madness started, we were able to secure a funding round, which
good timing.
Unbelievable timing. So you try to time the markets. Don't try to time the markets, I guess. But really, that was helpful to us. And for us and our clients in this time period, it's been pretty dynamic at the very beginning. One of the challenges right out of the gate, because of the unprecedented volume and volatility, is just the sheer amount of data coming into the system. And so we've had to, thankfully we have a pretty flexible platform that can grow and expand as needed. And if it's running in real time, it can handle, these massive spikes in volume. And so, we saw that, especially, across some of our exchange customers. And so, whether we could handle the systems, but then we have some providers, market data providers, that were struggling as well, just to keep up to the kind of 5, 6, 10x volumes all of a sudden, kind of 08, 2010 type numbers. And so I think the world got lulled into a bit of a coma over the last 10 years, and it had to wake them back up. And so that, we went through that process, intense couple of weeks. The team had to really respond. And then you had, on top of that, the work from home disaster, business continuity plans that almost every one of our clients had to, and we're trying to work with. And so we had to quickly adjust on, who could see the application. A lot of people, had new IP addresses because they're working from home and everything else. And so as like the marketplace, we had a flurry of activity, and I think it's, every month it's been probably getting a little bit more normal for our clients.
Any major hiccups or maybe surprises you guys encountered dealing with this just tsunami of activity here, Travis?
Not too bad, Mark. Actually, we had some pretty tense moments because some of the data providers were really late, and so some of our clients that are working on kind of a T+1 basis, that one piece of it, the T+1, it was getting very close because the data was taking so long to process over those time periods, and so we had probably some late starts, and so I'd call those some mild hiccups, but we weren't running, days in arrears or anything like that. But we absolutely got caught a bit on just the data deluge, and we were late probably a couple of days, but obviously we want to start on time every day, but thankfully we're not in the middle of the trade process, and so we're a post-trade, post-trade look at activity, even if it's real time, and so it's not, it's critical that we're up and going, but there's some flexibility in, kind of our general operating time constraints.
I could discuss the madness of the pandemic for ages here, Travis, but this is our crypto program, and I understand you guys have been making some headlines of late in the crypto space. So catch our audience up, Travis. What have you guys been up to in the crypto space of late, sir?
Yeah, Mark, we've been in the crypto space for a couple of years, and so we had the opportunity to work with a couple different marketplaces and a couple different customers that we're starting to look at surveilling their OTC activity, or the futures on cryptos or digital assets. And so we kind of dipped our toes then, and have been expanding kind of our client roster and offering ever since. And so it's been a space that we're really excited about, and we love to watch the market structure kind of unfolding before our eyes, which is, pretty a unique position for myself, and I'm sure as well, you as well, as, market structure is a very interesting topic, at least for some of us, and to watch a new market structure being created really as we're watching is great. It's awesome. So we've enjoyed being participants in that. We think we're an important part of that market structure for a certain type of those clients. We just did a press release last week where we announced Gemini as a new client of ours, and they're part of a very nice selection of digital asset exchanges that have been customers for ours for now going on a couple of years.
We've had a number of surveillance firms on the network over the years, probably most recently on our Trading Tech Talk program, talking about the different nuances of surveilling and doing market analysis in, equities and futures and more of the traditional asset classes. But now we're talking about this here on our crypto program. So that fundamentally is different and fundamentally is somewhat interesting to me because the crypto market, on its face, on its surface, was founded as this kind of anti-centralized, anti-regulatory, anti-surveillance, effectively, ethos. That's kind of the driving raison d'etre for all things crypto, at least in the early days. But I'm curious for you guys coming into this space now, and it seems like you've been working with a number of different venues now for a couple of years. How does performing and doing surveillance in this space, how does that compare to, let's say, a more traditional market like equities, Travis?
Yeah, it's an interesting time because you have still, not necessarily a bunch of settled law. You've had kind of these general trends that have happened from regulatory bodies as it relates to the digital assets. And so you had this massive rush to ICOs, and that market is effectively dead. And you have the futures market that is, based on digital assets that, is alive and growing. And then you have this space in between. And so what we've seen from our clients is they're trying to pull ideas or best practices from the analogs to the other marketplaces. So whether that's equity market structure or futures market structure. And so we're seeing, even, the OTC market, which theoretically doesn't have a lot of strong regulation, we have clients that are trying to regulate as a futures market. And so they provide those safeguards. They provide those institutional controls and transparency that you couldn't necessarily see in the OTC market, even though they don't have to. And so you have some elective approaches that are trying to give that safety to the institutional marketplace. And I think I don't know where that shakes out. And I think you'll see, again, these kind of hybrid approaches continue to grow and foster. And these marketplaces are interesting, right? They run, 24/5, 24/7. They have massive data sets. You can quote in a Satoshi, so you can go, 8 decimals or 8 digits past the decimal point. And so the books are massive for these products and the like. So there are some very unique, considerations when surveilling these types of markets. And I think what you'll see is that space evolving very quickly, and we have to try to keep up as quickly, as much as we can with our clients who are really defining the space as the weeks move forward.
Yeah, that's really an interesting point because you're right. The rules aren't set in stone yet for many of these crypto venues, crypto marketplaces. The regulators are still debating what approach you're going to take with crypto here in the U.S. So it sounds like you guys are kind of almost writing the rules as you go, which is a fascinating place to be from a surveillance perspective, Travis. So do you find yourselves then the game kind of varying firm to firm? One firm has their own rules of engagement, then the next firm wants to do something else, and you're kind of effectively making it up as you go, Travis, firm by firm?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're kind of making it up as we go, but our clients are absolutely trying to pull in and get feedback from as many parties as they can. And so we're trying to be that trusted provider that says, okay, this is kind of the platform. This is the product. It's called VOLATILITY. And, we have these host of procedures out of the box, and this is where we've seen, we provide as much guidance as we can. We, part of that value proposition that we're trying to provide is not just the product itself, but that experience that we're getting as part of the implementations and and the feedback that we get. Plus, we are going in front of, we literally sit down with our clients and the regulators that they are getting approvals from and walk them through these systems. And so that experience, we just try to plow right back into the product as much as we can, so that, again, we're trying to, it's almost in real time, Mark, is trying to pull down the feedback that we're getting, those best practices, and give our clients as much flexibility as they can, so that they can, exactly to your point, pick how they are looking at surveillance. Are they using the FX market as the analog? So, the FX OTC market, this is their analog. Or are they trying to pull from the futures market or the equity markets, or some combination in between? And thankfully, we kind of span all those asset classes, and so our clients can really try to pick and choose what works for them and where they think they're best positioned to support their end clients.
Sounds like a pretty fascinating opportunity for you guys, because unlike the more traditional asset classes where the rules are pretty much already established by the time you guys get in there, you guys are effectively being allowed to write the rule book as you go. It's kind of an interesting opportunity for you guys. You're not just enforcing rules that were already there. You're kind of helping to determine the best practices here, Travis.
As much as we can to where, we're working, I don't want to be trite about it, but as much as we can work as a partner with our clients and sitting down saying, okay, well, this is what our equity exchange clients are using. This is what our futures exchange clients are using. And this is what our digital asset exchange clients are using. If, we can kind of pull from all those worlds and give you the kind of the solution in the way or the path that you want to try to establish going forward, because it is absolutely a kind of, I wouldn't call it nebulous, but it's still, there's movement there, Mark, as you were saying. And so we want to be as flexible as we can for those clients and, give them the product that they can respond to in a timely way.
Now, surveillance firms in the traditional markets, they tend to focus on the similar types of behavior. They go after spoofing. They go after people manipulating the order book and those types of behavior. I'm curious, is it similar type of enforcement going on in the crypto space, or, new asset, new marketplace? Are there new types of manipulations you guys are finding and tracking down in the crypto space? What are they up to out there, Travis?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say necessarily new, but again, you have some interesting opportunities there for a combination of an OTC market and a listed market. So whether that's potentially a digital asset on an individual security, for instance, and then how do you look at the underlying kind of listed security market for that as well? And what procedures should you look at? Are they insider trading type rules that you're looking at, or wash type rules, or cross market manipulation? And so you can, really you can go as wide and interesting as you want, where manipulation in general, we would say is manipulation. And so there's lots of different flavors of that. There's lots of different ways to attack it, as compared to the equity markets, where it's getting really, really sophisticated, where you'll have multiple parties from around the world potentially trying to manipulate a single name from different clearing firms. I don't feel, or at least we haven't seen through our clients, that level of sophistication yet on the digital asset exchange. I'm sure, where there's money, there's going to be people trying to do things that are against the rules. But in general, I think it's still a little more uninformed manipulation as compared to some of the other more established marketplaces, is the way I describe that.
Uninformed manipulation. I like that. Well, it's good to hear that the scammers and manipulators haven't fully found their way into crypto yet. Of course, as you mentioned, the money's there, so it's only a matter of time. But maybe with firms like yours there, Travis, and the Vanguard, maybe you can slow things down. You mentioned you're working with 6 different crypto venues now. Is it fair to say then that this is kind of a pivot for your firm into crypto, or is this just one of many different business lines you guys are really focusing on?
Yeah, really one of just a big, client segment for us. We do, we have kind of handful to 6 segments, and this is just a great growth area for us. And so I wouldn't call it a pivot. I'd call this a expansion of our existing franchise, and one that we're really excited about. And so when we find great partners like that with Gemini, it just kind of adds to the excitement on our side, and we will continue to attack this market and be providers where we can be.
Now, obviously, the name here is Options Insider Radio Network. A lot of the surveillance firms we talk to focus mostly on the underlying, the equities and the futures and things. So is that your focus as well, or do you guys also analyze and surveil the options there, Travis?
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. So, asset classes wise, we're doing equities, we're doing equity options, we do futures, digital assets, FX, even, little cash treasury trading on the fixed income side. So we are, really is going as broad, kind of as wide and as deep as we can be. We don't have a ton of clients on the option side yet, but that's a growing asset class for us as well. So no, we try to cover it all as well as we can.
I've always said if ever there's an asset class that needs even more surveillance, it's the options space. You mentioned at the top of the show here, Travis, you guys raised some money heading into February. I think it was around $10.5 million in a Series A. Hey, like you mentioned, that was great timing. I think getting that done a month later would have been much more challenging. But that said, what are you guys planning for the money? What's the goal there? Is it to continue your expansion into crypto? What's the focus of the fundraising, Travis?
Yeah, it really is. We're trying to scale the business, Mark, really across kind of every axis that we have. I mean, since February, we've added, and we've kind of grown 150% in people headcount, right? So across the globe. So from marketing through sales through client success, through engineering, through a little admin as well. So really trying to scale up the organization to be able to handle, especially in the digital asset space, you think of it as truly a global asset class, like a lot of them, but really it's, kind of back to what you're saying is spawned and been adopted really by every corner of the globe. And we need to be able to support that. And so that's where we're spending that money, really is scaling our business to be able to be really one of the top global providers of this type of technology, to everyone.
You've increased headcount 150% during a pandemic. Well, it sounds like market surveillance and perhaps Amazon are the two growth industries of the pandemic here, Travis.
Right. RegTech and shipping packages to your door are the two growth industries. Invest in maybe biomed too, I would think would be a good investment too.
I noticed you have Coinbase listed as one of your investors. They're obviously also a customer of yours. Is that going to be a trend going forward, trying to get more customers to become investors to help continue to drive the analysis and the order flow to your platform? We
love having people, our clients as investors. And so, we have, many clients as investors. We love getting them on the same direction that we're going, not just, is really creating that deeper engagement and that deeper relationship with them. So, as we, think about doing on that next round, when and if we do that, we'd love to have more customers get involved. And so we already do. And we, that just reinforces kind of, for us, it's a very personal thing is we want every client that we have to be referenceable. And that just, when they are, becoming investors, that just reinforces that partnership that we've tried to establish with them from day one. And so we're very honored that they've chosen to not only just use us for a critical part of their business, but then potentially invest in us as well.
I guess that means they see something's going right, Travis, if they're willing to not just buy your product, but actually invest in it. I think this is a fascinating area and very little heralded area of the crypto space, Travis. I could talk about this for the rest of the show. Unfortunately, we have to keep rolling, breaking down some of the asset classes. But before we go, let's leave our audience with a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease. What can they expect from you guys coming down the pike at EVENTUS Systems in the coming months, Travis?
No, I appreciate that, Mark. For us, it's new exchanges, new asset classes, even continue to expand our client base, our capabilities. We've been really investing in our machine learning capabilities as well, doing a lot of interesting partnerships with people on the voice surveillance side on top of that. So for us, it's kind of trying to build off the momentum that we've established over the last couple of years. So really looking forward to it and excited about what's ahead.
Like I said, it's a fascinating area of the crypto space. I don't think we're done talking about it, Travis. I think we'll be talking about it again in the future as this marketplace continues to evolve. And if folks are intrigued, they want to learn more about what you guys have to offer, Travis, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, so info@eventussystems.com. You can send an email. That's EVENTUSSYSTEMS.com. Eventussystems.com is the website. So check us out, and you can send any emails to me as well, Travis@eventussystems.com. Happy to respond. So really appreciate that opportunity to reach out, Mark. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Travis, and we'll look forward to seeing how all these initiatives play out in the crypto marketplace in the coming months.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, and now we have to keep on rolling. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what's lighting it up on the trading side of the world's leading digital asset. Of course, we're talking Bitcoin. Coming into showtime, bit of a break for the bulls this week. We've been talking about kind of an endless rampage to the upside for the past few weeks. This past week, not so much. Crypto, I should say Bitcoin, taking a bit of a rest. It was just a little bit shy of 12,400 at the end of our last show. This week, coming into showtime, right around 11,750 or so. So putting it down over 600 handles, about 630-odd handles from last show. Again, kind of hard to argue. It's been up quite a bit of late, so taking a little bit, perhaps, of a well-deserved break. If you're a bull, maybe repositioning for the next move to the upside. Let's start breaking down some of what we're seeing out here. Of course, a lot of these volatility and SKEW metrics coming at you courtesy of our friends over there in SKEW land. SKEW.com is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Realized vol, so the actual amount of volatility that the marketplace has exhibited over the last 30 days, listeners. That's up slightly. It was 56% last week, 58% this week. So Bitcoin still volatile. The actual implied volatility, which remember is the amount of volatility that the crypto options are pricing in going forward 30 days. So we're looking back 30 days for historical or realized vol. Now we're looking forward 30 days for the implied volatility. That's the market's best guess of what vol is going to be in 30 days. And so right now, it's actually off a little bit, pricing in a little bit less juice, down to about 56% from 71%. The SKEW also changing, but not a huge amount. The SKEW was a negative 7.2%, down to minus 6.1%. If you're confused by what all that means, I encourage you to go back to the episode we did with the folks over at SKEW.com earlier on this program. We kind of break down all these metrics and what they mean in a lot more detail there. Call to put ratio, which is, of course, the ratio of how many calls are open versus how many puts in the open interest, up ever so slightly. It's effectively unched. It's still very call heavy at about a 68%. It was 67% last week. Let's get on out to the open interest, see what's lighting things up out there. A fairly active week out here, even if net open interest is a little bit shy of what it was last week. Even though DEREBIT's up about 1/10 of a billion, aka 100 million out there in net notional OI. It's up to about 1.6 billion out there, but net overall, the marketplace off a little bit since just the last couple of weeks. There was a little bit of a peak last week out there in open interest. BAKKT, of course, still holding court at a whopping 0 out there. CME right around 200 million. So that's not bad for them. That's not too far off their all-time high of about 268 million net. Again, this is notional now. Ledger X, 57 million. So decent numbers for them. They're close to their all-time high. It was 59 million. OKEX at 98 million. Not that far away from their all-time high as well, which is 114 million out there. And then we got new players here. It looks like SKEW.com expanding their analysis purview a little bit, adding in bit.com. And they have about 41 million worth of notional, which is also their max. So they happen to be at their max right now. So breaking down the options open interest across these major platforms here, we got DEREBIT, still the big dog, 80%. We've got CME now at a firm 10%. And then OKEX number 3, 5%. Ledger X number 4 at 3%. And bringing up the rear there, bit.com at 2%. Can't really count BAKKT. 0 technically is the rear, but they're not even on the chart. Our friends out there in DEREBIT, or I should say in Genesis land, they've been on the show a few times here, Genesis Volatility. Check them out if you are so inclined. They also have a good Twitter handle to follow. It's just at Genesis Volatility. They tweet out a lot of great nuggets throughout the week in between episodes of our program. They were commenting on the levels of OI out there as well. Again, not back at June levels, but still over $500 million worth of Bitcoin OI currently just in this August expiration. We'll get to more of that in a little bit when we break down the months here, but June was the big dog for open interest. The crypto market, the Bitcoin market, just loves to aggregate its open interest around the quarterly expirations, and so we haven't seen anything July and August really been able to rival that yet. They also tweeted out an interesting little nugget of just looking at where the options are right now on the different strikes, how many options would expire, what percent would expire worthless. And they have right here at 11,000 be about 80% of the options in August would expire worthless. We'll get into more of that in a little bit. If you like little nuggets like that, give them a follow over there at Genesis Volatility. But on the options front, again, we mentioned kind of a light week this past week, particularly on DEREBIT. We saw some big spikes not too long ago. A couple of weeks back, we saw over $500 million worth of notional go up on DEREBIT, about $527 million. Nothing like that this week. The big dog this week was about $197 million. That was on the 17th of August. So still impressive paper, but nowhere near the historic highs that we hit back just a few weeks ago here on the show. In terms of the big prints this week, actually kind of interesting. Again, a kind of a quiet week, so we got to see some newer players mixing in. We also saw Bit.com getting added into the analysis here on the SKEW site, and they actually featured in some of our quote-unquote larger, I put it in air quotes because it's not that big, listeners, 200 lots. It was the AUG 11,000 puts, paper selling 200 of those for 0.0045 Bitcoin, back when Bitcoin was at 11,857. It's not that far from where it is right now. Also selling the AUG 13,000 calls. It looks like a little bit of a strangle. Also 200 times. Those went up for 0.003, back when Bitcoin was pretty much the same price right there. In case you're wondering, that was almost 51 vol on the puts and about a 48 vol on the calls, which if you know anything about equity options, that's very rare to get similar level of vols for the calls and the puts. Usually the calls are worthless, the puts are bid up, especially now out there in the equity indices. So seeing relatively similar levels of vol for the calls and the puts makes it kind of interesting. Those are also pretty popular strikes. So an interesting strangle. What are your thoughts on that one, listeners? Selling that strangle. Obviously the 11,000 put closer to the fire right now, but if we break through it, he's clearly willing to pick up a little bit more Bitcoin over there. In terms of big trades that were lighting it up today, again, not a heck of a lot going up on DEREBIT. The big print was 1,628 of the AUG 10,500 puts. That was the hot strike out there, followed by about 1,100 of the AUG 10,000 puts, 10,000 even. So that strike coming back on the radar. If you look at where the action was, this is what the Genesis folks were referring to earlier, where the action is broken up across the expiration months. It's still August in the lead with about 62,000 contracts open, so August is still continuing to trend north. But again, as the Genesis folks pointed out, nowhere near what we saw, record open interest in June with 114,000 contracts. So we're pretty much right around half of that for August, and it doesn't look like we're going to get that much closer by the time all this rolls off the board out here. September coming on strong, though, 52,000, so it's hot on its heels. And again, that's a quarterly, so you got a little bit more time for that one. So September has a chance, and I've been saying that pretty much from day one on this show here. It's the quarterlies where all the action is. So if you're looking for new open interest records on the options front, at least, you got to look to the quarterlies, and SEP is the next one up in the batter's box. In terms of strikes, we're just talking about 10,000 strikes lighting it up on DEREBIT today. That isn't what's lighting it up on the net open interest, though. It's actually a dead heat, a tie. That's very strange, between the 11,000 strike and the 12,000 strike right now. Both of them have 15,900 contracts open, respectively, on each of them. So that's an interesting strangle, if you were to put that on right now. Obviously, we're hovering right in between that, but we were north of that 12,000 strike on last week's show. So interesting stuff to see those two so neck and neck, followed by, looks like, the 14,000 strike with about 12,000. So keeping with that other long-standing crypto options tradition of skipping a strike. Forget the 13,000 strike. That's only got 9,600 contracts open. Let's go right ahead to 14,000 and start building up our OI up there. Moving on out to Bitcoin options on CME. A decent week, but not a heck of a lot of paper. We talked last week about a couple hundred contracts a day. Seemed like that was the norm. This week was even less than that. Some days far less than that. So not a lot of paper lighting it up from the overall CME Bitcoin options side. On the Bitcoin futures front, a little bit of a different story. Decent day today, about 8,000 contracts. In fact, eerily similar last couple of weeks for the Friday and Thursday of the previous week. Because last week we said the Friday had about 11,500. The week before had the exact same amount. This week, at this show, 11,400. So a couple of weeks now where the Friday has been almost the exact same contract volume. Thursday, same deal, almost 6,000 this week. Pretty much the same as the last week and even indeed looks like the week before. So Thursday and Friday kind of have been moving in lockstep for the last couple of weeks, at least from a volume perspective. Kind of strange. Not sure why that is. Wednesday, about 12,000 on the tapes, another active day. Tuesday, also about 12,000, and Monday, 10,000. So there is some paper going up in the futures. The folks over there at Block Crypto were analyzing the Bitcoin futures market at CME. They talked to our friend Joshua Lim here from Genesis Global Trading. They've been on the show, obviously, not too long ago, about why they think this Bitcoin futures volume is, as they put it, soaring towards $1 billion worth of notional open interest. They hit an all-time high back on Monday of $948 million. And Josh was pretty much laying it out. He thinks it's the basis trade. Seeing a little bit of juiciness, as he puts it, the juiciness of the basis. I like that, to the upside. So they're selling a little bit of futures, buying the spots, kind of an old school strategy, but it's certainly driving some paper over there in CME land right now. People have been speculating for a while what is driving all this paper. Some people were saying it was Paul Tudor Jones getting in to the CME product as well, but this is a much more reasonable and straightforward explanation out here as well. Check that one out over there at Block Crypto. As you head on out to our other old friend, the BAKKT volume bot. Doesn't unfortunately have a heck of a lot to report on the BAKKT front. They traded 7,239 contracts. That's decent paper. That's up about 1%. Nowhere near, again, their all-time high of about 12,000 and change. Remember, that's a one-to-one contract, unlike the CME contract, which has a 5x multiplier. This is one-to-one. So what you see is what you get. 7,200 contracts is 7,200 Bitcoin. Much more straightforward from an analysis perspective. In terms of OI, actually ticking up a little bit after seeing them kind of plumb the depths to the dark side. They're getting a little bit more love. That's good to see. Up to almost 11 million, about 10.8 million. That puts it up about 9%. Again, that's another good follow out there if you want some follows in between shows. The BAKKT bot, BAKKT bot. Good place to go to get your BAKKT data. Unfortunately, again, not much of any data really to discuss on the options front, but hopefully that'll change in future shows as we keep on rolling into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, welcome to the altcoin universe portion of the show where we break down everything going on outside of that big dog there, which is Bitcoin. Let's break down the top 10. Again, standard caveats apply. Take these market caps with a grain of salt. Number 10, Binance Coin there at about, looks like $3.2 billion. Number 9, Crypto.com. Still holding firm in the top 10, $3.3 billion. Just edging out Binance Coin this week. Number 8, Bitcoin SV, $3.7 billion. Number 7, Litecoin, still in the top 10 as well. Just a tick over $4 billion. Number 6, Chainlink. The little engine that could out there, about $5.25 billion. Number 5, Bitcoin Cash, $5.3 billion. Number 4, we jump up a bit here to Tether, $10 billion, almost even. Number 3, XRP. Tether hot on its heels at this point. Could get bumped out of the top 3, but still at number 3, a little bit shy of $13 billion for XRP. Number 2, ETH, $45.1 billion. The big dog, Bitcoin, $216 billion. It's going out to ETH. Number 2 in a lot of your hearts and minds. Number 2 from an overall options volume perspective as well. ETH taking another break after taking a break recently here. Taking another break down about, 39 handles almost exactly from our last show. Let's see what's lighting it up from an overall volatility and unusual activity and open interest perspective here. The realized vol out there is literally unched at about an 81%. Again, that's going back 30 days. Listen, let's go forward now 30 days, see what the future is predicting from an implied vol perspective. That's down as well. It was 103%, so very frothy, very volatile last week. Listeners, this week it's down to about an 86%, so down almost 20 points from last week. So that vol is coming in pretty firmly in ETH options land. The average daily volume ticking up ever so slightly. It was 30 million even on the last show. This week it's about 33 million or so out there, so not a heck of a lot of change out there. The big spike we saw this past week was 46 million worth of notional. That was on the 21st. Again, that's nowhere near the big spike we saw a couple of weeks ago back on August 14th. That was 66 million. That was the big dog out there. This week, not so much. 46 million. Active week, decent week, but can't really compare with what we're seeing out there from an overall volume perspective of a couple of weeks ago. Let's look at the numbers here. Again, break it down a little bit more here on DEREBIT. Again, kind of not the most active of weeks. OI looking pretty firm out there, though. We saw a high of OI back in June of about 165 million. Kind of blown the doors off that these days. This recent run in ETH has really contributed to a lot of growth of open interest. There's about a 413 million open on DEREBIT right now. That's actually down a little bit from last week. Last week had about almost 430 million. OKEX has about 34 million as well, also down a little bit from 39 million. So obviously a little bit of ETH options coming off the board over the past week, but still obviously well north of 2x what the highs were from open interest, at least back in June. Let's head on out to Ripple. Ripple, another one, kind of giving up some of the love, the shine that it had not too long ago. Was north of the 30 handle last week, 30 cents at least. It was about 32, almost 33 cents. This week, 28 cents and change. So it's given up some of the ghost. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I'm joking, of course, for all you XRP heads out there. And talking about mighty, it's nowhere near the $3 and change it was back in the go-go days of XRP. Down a little bit this week, nearly 4 cents. So giving a little bit of a respite to the XRP bulls out there. Bitcoin Cash also down. Pretty much a lot of the majors are down this week. Bitcoin Cash down 31 handles from last week. Bitcoin SV down about $25 from last week. Now it's time to find out what you guys have on the brain with a little bit of your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, really quickly here, let's squeeze a few of you on before we wrap up. First off, Selecki. Selecki wants to know, what do you think will be the next hot crypto options market? Well, that's a great question. Obviously, Bitcoin, the big dog right now. ETH, hot on its heels. So I'm assuming you're excluding ETH from that question there, Selecki, because the obvious answer right now would be ETH. So going beyond it, it's interesting to see with some of these other coins that are ticking in to the top 10 there. You know, Crypto.com coin is in there, pretty much growing every week, week upon week. We've got everyone's favorite these days, Chainlink. So I guess if that one could keep on the trajectory it's had over the past couple of months out here, that one could be off to the races. That could be a vibrant place. We might start seeing some Chainlink options spring up out there. But right now, obviously, the clear answer is ETH. There's nothing else even close. I mean, everything has a little bit of options on it from an OTC perspective. We had the Drawbridge guys on here not too long ago talking about selling premium and finding ways to collar even things like XRP, which is a 30-cent product, which, you know, the option, this underlying is effectively an option at that point. So they can trade them on everything. And they are trading in smaller volume on everything. But right now, obviously, the clear big dog for number 2 is ETH. But I wouldn't be surprised if something like a Chainlink or something else can continue its explosion of fascination and mind share, and maybe that will edge its way and elbow its way into being a number 3. But right now, there's a huge chasm between ETH and just about everything. And we have a long way to go between Bitcoin and ETH. So we have a little bit of growing to do here. So, but I like the optimism of your question, Selecki. It implies there's more to come. Let's see. Next up here, Joe Youngs, plural. Joe Youngs, plural. He says, what do you think of the Bitcoin VIX that Ledger X is putting out? Worthwhile tool or marketing hype machine? Well, you can check it out for yourself here, Joe Youngs. Everybody else, we had a great conversation with Simon Ho, who's the creator of that index. They're utilizing his BitVol methodology. You can find out more about that over there at t3index.com. And then, of course, to check out the archives of this show, go back a couple of months. We had Simon on. It's called Bitcoin VIX right there in the title, pretty much. I think it was called Bitcoin versus VIX, the episode. So go check it out a few months back there. You'll see it right in our archive. You could decide for yourself the value of it. But Simon's done some good stuff in the past. He, of course, is the creator. I call him the Spikes father. He's the creator of the Spikes Index, which we talk about every week on our Volatility Views program. It's kind of a VIX analog out there, taking that same methodology now and applying it to Bitcoin. And there's certainly some fascinating, interesting things. I certainly think this iteration of it is a lot more viable than whatever that first iteration that Ledger X had going out there, where they were really trumpeting, hey, we have a Bitcoin Fair Index. It seemed like they were really going for the marketing hype of it, where you really couldn't get data from it. It was hard to find. Now, this is a much more standardized calculation. We know who's behind it. We know exactly what they're doing with it. It seems like they're investing more in it and really trying to put that out there more. So I'm going to go out there and say that this is a more worthwhile tool, whereas in the past, it may have been a little bit more of, as you put it, the marketing hype machine. Great questions, everybody. All right. Unfortunately, that music means we've come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of all things crypto derivatives. Had a great chat with Travis and the folks over there at EVENTUS. Check them out if you are so inclined. It's a fascinating area. It's not an area that really gets discussed quite a bit, but the regulation and surveillance side of crypto is extremely nascent and a huge growth area out there as they're effectively writing the rule book as they go, because there isn't one yet for crypto, which makes it exciting. I have a feeling we'll be talking about that more in the coming months. Of course, talked about all things that are trading out there in Bitcoin and ETH and everything else in between. Answer some of your questions. Hope you guys are enjoying it. If you missed any of it or any of our programs recently, check out the archives. They're all there, theoptionsinsider.com, or wherever you get this fine programs, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, our app, you name it. Of course, wherever you listen to it, if you like what you hear, make sure you leave a review so others can continue to discover this fun program. And we'll see you back here throughout the week for more great shows. The advisor's option hitting us this week, hurricanes notwithstanding. We've got OPR coming back, got boot camp again, a great interview tomorrow about all things volatility futures coming up on the network tomorrow, and all things coming forward, rolling it through till next Monday with more of the Crypto Rundown.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.